Welcome to episode 3 of the Band Pod. This week, we're talking show design, and we're breaking down 2003 Phantom Regiment, A Harmonic Journey. But first, we are joined by the core director of Phantom Regiment, Mr. David Warren. All right, so we've gone over some basic ideas of programming, and we've also talked a little bit about show design. Can you give us some ways that you approach show design?
So, at the Phantom Regiment, we essentially approach show design as in what is going to appeal to our audience. We can come up with something as complex and really just digging into X, Y, and Z, but we want to be able to connect to our audience and make it as simple as possible in order for them to receive the message that we want. This goes from first developing what we want musically, something that will reach people musically, and then we kind of go from there. Creating a soundtrack that people enjoy and people love, and then we kind of go from there.
Awesome. So we, when you think about Phantom Regiment, you think about like 2003 Phantom Regiment, Harmonic Journey, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. But is that the kind of thing that you're going for? It's very simple, but it's effective.
Absolutely. Our goal is in 2003 is a perfect example of this. We kind of want to walk away with them leaving the stadium humming our tunes in their head. And I think 2003 is a perfect example of that. People are going to be walking away from the stands and the stadium and whatnot, and they're going to have that tune in their head. That's kind of what our process goes through. And so whenever a member of our design team presents something that we could possibly use in our show, we listen to it and then we go away from it. We sit there and we think, is this something that someone's going to get something out of? Is this something I could listen to 1,000 times over and over and over again? And I love how you used 2003 as an example. Because that is a show I could listen to over and over and over again and never get tired of it. So that's the main goal when we design something.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of Phantom shows like Defiant Heart or Spartacus or shows like that really just stick out over a period of time that are essentially timeless. So what does it take to create a cohesive and exciting show?
Well, first off, it takes a very cohesive group in order to create it. The way that we do it at Phantom Regiment is we have a visual designer and we have a music designer. And those two work together in order to develop the show. A lot of courts do it to where one person, as a program coordinator, develops the show. We like to tap into the two different elements that you have on the show, which is the musical and the visual. And so for us personally, we have someone that first off designs the musical book, and then a visual person alongside of them coming up with ideas that can enhance that program and can push it forward to our fans. So we start with a musical book. Because we believe that is very critical to the visual program. We start with the we start with the musical book and then move to the visual to enhance that book.
Now, would you have like an idea of what you're doing musically? Do you kind of fit everything around one theme? Do you start with a single song, or how does that process work?
Well, we really honestly just start with pieces of music that fit well together without defining what our theme is.
Yeah.
As we all know as musicians, music speaks a lot louder than words. And to us, if we could put together a musical program that maybe the names of the piece of music or the purpose behind it does not necessarily equal what we want, but how do those 4 or 5 tunes fit together in order to incorporate the one musical idea that we have going? So we like to start with Phantom Regiment. We love to start with the musical side of things, and then, you know, as our drum corps is known for, we're known for the theatrical side of things. And so start with the musical book and let's enhance the theatrical side of things to make a drum corps show, or to make a show in general.
Right. And, you know, kind of piggybacking off what you said before with, you know, how you want to connect to the audience too. You know, it's always important to have the music that the audience will enjoy, and then you can add to it and make it like visually an aesthetic that the audience will enjoy.
Absolutely.
So let's see, in your opinion, what elevates a show, or what makes it stand out? And I guess we've kind of touched on that, but what makes a show timeless?
I honestly think it's that the type of shows that us as musicians, the second we hear it, we have an effect. We have a reaction, I guess I should say. To reference what you said in 2003, that was the drum corps show that made me want to dive further into musical marching arts education. So I think that's kind of where I come from, and push forward, is that, you know, this show had a huge impact on me just because of not the theme or anything, but just because of how the music moved me, and that's kind of how we go from there.
Right. And that, I mean, that beginning section, and they play it twice, but the canon hit is you know, it opens the show and it closes the show, but then you've got everything in the middle that just kind of fits it all together just perfectly.
Right. And as you're going through, like, even that particular show, as you're going through, you know, you don't think about how each part builds into that final moment, and then when that final moment comes, you know, it catches you off guard and really kind of completes the journey that they want to take you on.
Yeah, and it almost seems like it's the start of the journey, and then it gets chaotic in the middle, and then at the end, it's that resolution that everybody's looking for.
Exactly. Yes.
So I guess that kind of answers my next question, which is, do you have a favorite show and why? And I'm assuming it's probably answered the question right there.
Well, to be honest, 2003 was one of the first that I heard. It was actually the first one that made me want to march Phantom Regiment. But 2006 is actually my favorite show, and 2010.
Okay.
Mainly because of what we just talked about, you know, of I had not seen a visual program for either one of those when I heard them. But musically inspired me to continue and push forward and have the desire to learn more. So I think those two would be my two favorites. Would be 2006, 2010, along with 2003, because the musical journey that it took you on.
Yeah.
And whether or not you're a music person or not, you listen to those shows and they're just flat out phenomenal. And you can tell that the goal was to give the audience an incredible musical experience, putting the visual aside.
Yeah. So kind of go over, what does it take to put, you know, once you've got the design together, like once the show's ready to go, obviously you guys have camps and everything, kind of go through that process of putting everything together.
Well, the tough part is what no one realizes, I think, that gets involved in this, is there is so much administrative things that go into this.
Yeah.
Planning the summer tour, getting buses, planning housing sites, this, that, and the other. Those are all behind the scenes things that beyond the show design has to encompass in order to come to life. But beyond that, I mean, we work with prop designers, we work with sound designers, we work with everything that you can imagine that would go into 10 minutes of a summer marching production. We really try to see every angle, every stage, every little thing that we can possibly imagine that goes into developing a show for 10 minutes over the summer.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important part, is once you get down to what you want to do and who's going to write it, it's, you know, the little tiny intricacies of the organization, of who's going to do the sound design, who's developing the color guard. Well, this is a great idea, but who's designing the visual and whatnot? And that's kind of the process we go through.
Okay. And it's also, I'm assuming it's important to kind of fit it to obviously the style of the Corps, which is, Phantom is obviously you have a very set style, but does it kind of come into play with who you've got that year, or how everything is kind of shaping up together?
Well, I love how you said that, this is Phantom. This is, our goal is that whatever we do will be Phantom. And whether that falls in line with our classical music philosophy, we hope that whatever we do, we will be able to portray it as being Phantom Regiment, whether that's classical music or whether that is not classical music. Us being Phantom Regiment, we can make it be that, based off of what we do. So we definitely don't want to put ourselves in a box of saying, this is Phantom Regiment, this is what we're doing, because we think we can reach outside that box and expand on our classical music, classical philosophy, and branch it into other things.
I love it. Okay. All right. Last thing. Sell, anybody who's listening, sell Phantom Regiment to them.
I mean, at Phantom Regiment, we are dedicated to not just only making sure that the music educators of tomorrow are informed and are prepared and are ready to get out into the world, but we want to dedicate us to all music education and anything that we can do to promote the greater good of music in our educational society. If you come and march Phantom Regiment, we are not just going to teach you how to execute a 10 to 12 minute show at the highest level. We're going to teach you how to execute that show at the highest level, but we're also going to teach you how to educate others on how to execute that on the highest level. And make sure that you leave with the educational tools in order to start your own program, enhance a program that has already been established, and to push forward to the heights that you want your program to become. And that's our goal. We really want to make sure that the leaders of tomorrow are informed and educated in the fields that they need to be. And so that is our overarching goal, as well as being one of the top marching arts performing ensembles in the world, and one of the more loved marching arts performing ensembles in the world. So beside all the performing and all the wonderful recognition we get, we want to build individuals. We want to build people that will push the generation that we have right now forward. And that's what we're committed to, inspire passionate leaders in our marching arts community and the world.
Awesome. Well, you are the man. I really appreciate the time.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate getting the opportunity.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Band Pod.
Hello.
This week we are going to break down Phantom Regiment 2003.
Yeah, this is really just, your assignment is going to be talking about, the elements of the show that you enjoy. You're not really, I'd love to see you critique Phantom Regiment, but that's not quite happening for anyone involved with this today. But it's really just talking about like what you enjoy, what do you think really works, what really stands out to you. And so to preface this a little bit, we're going to talk about like the elements, like what are the main elements of this show that you're going to be focused on. So the big, there's the theme overall, and then under that, I think you've got the musical elements and the visual elements.
Right. What we're going to do is we're going to watch this show. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about some things that we really like. Obviously, this is a classic show, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the visual elements we like, what they added in musically, and how the show really fits together. So what we're going to do is we're going to break that down. What you guys are going to do is you're going to break down 2008's Phantom Regiment Spartacus, which is another classic Phantom show. All right, so let's get to it. All right, here we go.
On the field from Rockford, Loves Park, Illinois, before their 2003 program, Harmonic Journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Phantom
So the first thing you notice is the way they're standing. Crowd's going crazy, but nobody is moving. Okay, everybody's waiting for the show to start.
Bill Felix and David Simon, is your corps ready?
Very traditional drum major
Phantom
salute.
Regiment, they take the field for competition.
Yeah, it's very, at this high level, you'll see the discipline. You see a lot of different poses in the background with color guard.
Classic Phantom Regiment, baton out of the back.
And immediately you've got, the first note of the show happens. And as we're watching this, you can watch this with us. Immediately they're stepping off, back, percussion, all that's moving. And then this front brass block they're doing all this lower body movement and upper body movement, getting it going. And it's this slow build opener.
Notice the control they have too. And you'll see it, the fact that they're playing so smoothly, but everybody is moving and it all works together. It's a beautiful solo right here in the color guard. Really something nice here is the fact that it's all like guards in black, bands in white, but if you look at the color scheme for the flags, it kind of adds that visual effect right there. Now here we go, build up. That's fantastic.
This is like top 5 hits for me. It's if you're not watching it, it's really, really cool how they both transitioned from the beginning. They were all playing, and it was a really smooth from like the small, just sectional sounds into full ensemble, and they're facing backfield, which is a great effect they can do. That'll just, it cuts volume in half. You're pointing away.
It's a beautiful release. And then also, if you're watching, you'll notice that the guard opened up, and instead of single flags, they had double swing, which is just fantastic. Going into a drum feature right here.
I'm going to pause it right here for just a second. So the other thing we talked about, visuals and music going together, I really liked how in the beginning it's all like the small ensemble sectional stuff, just sections playing. And then as like everyone came together and got louder for the big hit, you see visually all the on-field like horn members and percussionists, they clump together. And I feel like that really accentuates, hey, all the focus is right here. This is the big moment. Look right here. Hit and play again.
You can see how the band is locking up. They've actually got the drum line separated here. Now normally that wouldn't be something I would suggest. Yeah, huge plie right there, big moment. Listen to that contrast of the highs versus the lows.
I really like on the hits, there's the little visual stuff in the feet going on where they freeze for a moment.
And also know that it's very important to have dynamics in a show, and they're doing that. Like, they're bringing out the lows, bringing out the louds.
I really like, everyone talks about the canon prelude part, which is at the beginning and the end of the show is a canon prelude for that they wrote. But the middle section is Harmonium Wild Nights, and it's one of my favorites. It's really good. Nice little ripple going on there to end the section, and then they all turn backfield, which is really good because it's saying, hey, we're no longer musically important. So they turn around, you get rid of the horns, and it's the percussion takes over for that little transition.
And guys, just think about how difficult this is. I mean, they're wearing white pants with white shoes. Judges can see everything. So even if you're slightly out of step, they're going to notice, okay? So the precision is extremely impressive. Drumline here, take a look at this technique, okay? Everybody's playing same stick height. Everything's very nice, even.
I feel really, especially with just white and black uniforms like that, such a monochrome kind of thing. You can really your flag choice and like colors really stand out.
Guard is perfectly in sync.
And I love it. You hear that really chaotic section going on with and on the field, you know, it's hectic. They're not focusing on one thing, saying, okay, now it's music, now it's visual. You really see like they're trying to accentuate the musically what's going on, like with the drill.
Right, and I'm piggybacking off of that with the chaos, that feel, the drum line going through the band and just breaking it up as it goes around, them going around creates that feel of chaos. And then we're out of the section and we're moving back field, creating more of an effect.
This show is so cool. I love this show so much.
And we're having a very cool pull apart effect.
It's the Z-pull, the Zingale Z-pull.
Also, no, they don't overuse visuals, and it's very easy to overdo visuals, but all they do for the visuals, it kind of brings out those musical moments just a little bit more.
Definitely brings out a little more, especially in that opener while we're just in this transition right here. Something really cool that I noticed with them, and that you see even more, is like there's never a breather moment for them. It's if they're not playing, they'll pop down real quick and they'll do some sort of horn flash, or they'll do some sort of little foot move or something that just shows. And so even though music is not happening, you know, the mind and the eyes are still like entertained and engaged right then. But especially like you see now, when we're in the slower ballad part, there's not as much movement going on, and they can stand still, and that lets them play more musically, which is wonderful because it's easier to play when you're not running around at 100 miles an hour. But it also just kind of brings more attention to the fact that it's supposed to be this like beautiful moment.
So take a look at that fanfare section right there. Swell into the release, then you actually hear the release and the reverb happening in the stadium. Very beautiful moment. And this is such a good piece too. One of my favorites, absolute favorites. Now look at how the visuals bring out what the color guard are doing. Now we've got this beautiful red flag going on. In sync with the band, the flags are in sync with what the band's doing, the lunges to the side. And drumline, also notice how it's not overpowering. They're playing at a dynamic that's lower than the band itself, whereas in before we could clearly hear it, but the placement in the field also helps with that.
Something I just noticed this time, I noticed you'll notice things like every time you rewatch it, you can see it again, and I think that's what's crazy about judges is they get that one shot really to do it. It's earlier the flags were white with the black in the middle, and then it kind of transitioned into that full red right there, and it and through that musically it was getting from the earlier when it was red and black, it was the fast chaotic stuff, and it goes into the beautiful stuff, and they got rid of that black and it was just the solid red.
Oh, it's one of my favorite closers.
And again, what they're doing, these little like soli sections that they've got, to highlight the section that they need to be paying attention to right now. They're all standing still. Right now, like mellows were standing still when they're ripping through that leg, so everyone should be looking at them. Because it's not the fact, the people doing the most aren't the most important, it's the people that are contrasting.
You take a look at the control during this jazz run section here, and I know we're focusing on drumline. This is their section right here, but look how everything is in sync. All across the board, all levels, guard, percussion, band in the background. Just because we're focusing on one section doesn't mean that the judges aren't looking at everything else that's going around. Oh, what a pass through. Here we go.
I love it because it's, again, this is really kind of the first time they've been bunched up since the beginning when they're doing this reprise of the hit from the beginning. And it's a little callback to it.
That moment where the percussion are going forward and then they hit back and you can see the technique on everything. Here we go with the spin. I challenge you to look at this and see if you can find anybody out of step right there. Here we go. So you take a look at the ending right there, and first off, this is an unbelievable show. Unbelievable. You're just soaking in the applause right there. But the way that that final set kind of forms at the end, it brings out the harmonics within. And obviously the show is called Harmonic Journey, but it begins with that opening hit, canon, and it ends with that canon hit. So it kind of is a seamless thing, and obviously you've got a bunch of stuff in the middle right there, but it all fits together in a way that's cohesive, and then by the time you get to the end of the show, you've come full circle, which is just a fantastic way of putting it.
Yeah, so that was our example, if you would. If you feel so inspired that you want to make a recording and submit it on Google Classroom, you can do that. If not, it's one paragraph, 5 sentences minimum, which that's really short. I think everyone can go above and beyond that for Spartacus, which is like a 10, 12-minute show in there. Please, if you're going to talk about something in there, put a little timestamp so we can know exactly like where to look for, just so we can get your ideas. And there are no wrong answers with this.
Right.
It's very much a personal preference thing and more of like expanding your creativity and just so you know what you like and you can put it into words, because sometimes I know that helps me a ton even now. If like I'm like, hey, I like this, and I have to sit and like break it down and be like, what do I like about this? What do I enjoy visually? What do I enjoy musically? Do I enjoy the fact that like it's working together so well? So that's it for us this week.
Yeah, and guys, just have fun with it. Okay? Have some fun with it. I know you're working hard in some other classes and stuff like that, but have fun. This is something that'll help us in the long run, just being aware of things like this. And next week, we're going to break down last year's show and have some fun with that. All right? We will see you guys later.
Bye.